A player sat down in front of a microphone this week, looked straight ahead, and called it a joke. Not the game, not a call. The poster. Sophie Cunningham was talking about the WNBA's own 30th anniversary poster, and she didn't dress it up. Leaving Caitlin Clark off, it was a joke, she said. The best player ever to come through this league left out while random names made the cut. Here's the part that should stop every Fever fan cold. Cunningham is on that poster. She made it. Clark didn't. So the one veteran who had every reason to smile and enjoy her own moment is the one who grabbed a mic and said the quiet thing out loud, that the league would rather put its players on a poster than actually build itself around the biggest star it has ever had. That's the whole story right there. A league that won't back its own draw, and exactly one person willing to say so with her name attached. Let me tell you about a job title most fans have never heard because it matters here. The WNBA has a Chief Growth Officer. Her name is Collie Edison, and she's the first person to ever hold that title in the league's history. The whole point of the role is right there in the name, growth. She oversees the league's business strategy, its media partnerships, the revenue side, the opportunities that make the WNBA bigger. She reports straight to the commissioner. If there is one office in that building whose entire reason to exist is turning the league's stars into the league's engine, it's hers. Now hold that thought next to a simple fact. The most searched, most watched, most argued about player in women's basketball got left off the poster celebrating the league's own 30th birthday. The single biggest growth engine this sport has produced in a generation, not on the growth office's birthday poster. I want to be careful here, because this is where a lot of people rush and get it wrong. I'm not telling you Collie Edison sat in a room and personally crossed Clark's name off a list. The poster was made by an outside company under a WNBA license, and nobody has put that specific decision on her desk. That's not the point. The point is the shape of it. You can hold the title Chief Growth Officer, you can run the machine whose only job is growing this league around its stars, and still preside over the moment your biggest star gets left off your own celebration. Cunningham's the one who looked at that and refused to pretend it was fine. Here's what makes the poster more than a one-off slip. Go back to May. The league put out a marketing graphic and chose to feature a Fever bench player, Raven Johnson, over Caitlin Clark. Not a knock on Johnson, who's earned her spot. But promoting the reserve over the most popular player in the sport got a name from the people watching. They called it the worst marketing in sports, and that was 2 months before the poster. So this is a pattern, not an accident. One graphic in May pushing a bench player ahead of the star. One anniversary poster in the summer leaving her out entirely. Same instinct every time. A reluctance to build the moment around the one player everyone is actually tuning in to see. Cunningham didn't invent that frustration. She just said it into a microphone while the people whose job it is to fix it stayed quiet. You could dismiss all this as fan noise, angry comment sections, people who'll defend Clark no matter what. Except it went further than that. A U.S. congressman noted on the record how strange it is that the WNBA doesn't market its most popular player the way another league once marketed its biggest name. Think about that for a second. It's odd enough as a marketing story that it reached the floor of American politics. When a sitting congressman is pointing at how a sports league promotes, or doesn't promote, its own star, you are no longer talking about a fan grievance. You're talking about something people outside the sport can see plainly. Cunningham's the one inside the sport saying it. That's the difference. Anyone can complain from the cheap seats. It costs a player nothing to stay silent, and everything to speak. And she spoke anyway. Now, if you've followed Cunningham at all, none of this surprises you. Speaking her mind is who she is, and the league has a history of making her pay for it. Back in 2025, she got fined $1,500 for saying on her podcast that the officials were just so inconsistent. She got hit with another $500 for mocking the referees on TikTok. There was a $400 flagrant fine out of the Fever Sun scrum that season, plus a penalty for the shove that followed. Those are all 2025 receipts. I'm not telling you the league is fining her this week. I'm telling you there's a track record. When Sophie Cunningham thinks something's wrong, she says it, and the bill shows up in the mail. That's the character behind the mic. She's someone who's been fined for honesty before and decided the honesty was worth it anyway. So when she looks at that poster and calls it a joke, It lands differently than it would from someone who'd never risked a dollar to tell the truth. Here's the honest complication, and I'm going to give it to you straight instead of pretending it doesn't exist. There's a real question about why Clark isn't on that poster, and it might not be as simple as the league deciding to leave her off. Reporting says the reason may come down to licensing. Clark's deals reportedly let most companies use only her name and her jersey number, not her actual likeness. The rights to her image sit with Nike through her endorsement deal, and the company that made the poster reportedly didn't have permission to use her picture. So one version of this story is that it's a rights technicality, not a snub. Fine, let's take that seriously. But ask yourself the next question. If your entire job is growing a league around a once-in-a-generation player, does a licensing snag really end the conversation? A growth office that genuinely wanted her face on that poster finds a way. Clears the rights, works the deal, makes the call months ahead so the technicality never becomes the story. The fact that it did become the story is the point Cunningham is making. Whatever the paperwork says, the star everyone came to see wasn't there, and the people whose job it is to sell this league didn't move mountains to fix it. She's the only veteran willing to stand up and say that out loud. And this weekend, she said something else that tells you exactly who she is. The conversation had turned to the online hate players deal with, the ugly stuff, the threats that have become part of the job, and where a lot of people would reach for a soft statement. Cunningham pushed back on the whole victim framing. "You can put out statements as much as you want," she said, "but at the end of the day, you're in the entertainment business. That's where mental toughness comes in. If you're going to live by praise, you're going to die by hate." That's a hard thing to say out loud. Plenty of people won't, but it's the same person, isn't it? The one who won't hide behind the comfortable line, whether she's talking about the abuse players take or the star the league won't promote. She treats her teammates and her league like adults. She'd rather tell you the uncomfortable truth than hand you the press release version. There's a bigger picture here, and you don't have to be a basketball historian to see it. Once upon a time, another league had a player who came along maybe once in a lifetime, and it built everything around him. The NBA took Michael Jordan and made him the centerpiece. It expanded its marketing, took the game around the world, tied the whole league's rise to the one star pulling everyone in. That's what a league does when it understands the moment it's been handed. It doesn't leave the golden goose off the birthday card. It puts him front and center and lets the whole world watch. That comparison isn't just mine, by the way. It's the exact one that Congressman reached for. The WNBA doesn't market its most popular player the way the NBA once marketed its biggest name. The parallel writes itself, and everyone can see it except, apparently, the office in charge of growth. So here's where we actually are. The Fever have been winning games without Clark on the floor. They beat the Aces on the road this weekend, and Cunningham was out there for it, back in the rotation off the bench after being under the weather. Clark's been out with a back issue, and the word is she's aiming to get back on the court sometime on this road trip, though the team's being cautious about exactly when. That's the near-term story, and it'll sort itself out over the next few days. But the bigger story doesn't sort itself out. A league sitting on the most valuable player it has ever had, and an entire growth office that keeps finding ways to leave her out of the picture. On a graphic in May, on a poster this summer. And through all of it, one veteran who was on that poster, who had every reason to stay quiet and enjoy her own moment, chose instead to grab a microphone and say the thing nobody with a league paycheck wanted to say. That's what makes Sophie Cunningham the lone protector in this. Not because she scored the most or shouted the loudest, but because she was the only one willing to stand there with her own name on the poster and tell you the truth about who's missing from it. So let me ask you the question the growth office won't. If your league's biggest star keeps getting left off the poster, who's actually protecting the future of this thing? I've got my answer. I want to hear yours down in the comments.